referenced this earlier, Cody, but can you talk about that Houston smuggling case?
Yeah, part of, DS, I forget if we talked about it yet, but one of our duties as DS agents are to investigate visa passport fraud, and most of our cases come up through the passport office. So our office in Houston was not co-located, but it was co-located in the same building, so different floor from the passport office was the DS Houston field office, and we had an individual walk in who really when it was sent up to us, we were called. They were questioning an ID, a Texas ID. They, as in the passport specialist, was questioning that it was a legit ID. It turns out it was a legit ID, but they said something didn't feel right about these individuals. And so we got the call, and I happened to be the duty agent. So just like DEA probably had the same thing, right? You have duty agents that take calls at field offices. And so myself and another individual went down there to see what was going on, to meet with the passport officer and our passport specialist and determine what was going on. And met with these two girls. And we learned from passport specialist that an individual, a male individual, had left. So as soon as they started questioning or like taking longer than they should have, in his mind, I guess he bolted. That's the term they use. He bolted, which is suspicious in itself. So we went back and looked at video footage. We took the two individuals. So it was two females of I think 18, 19 years old that were applying for a passport and to go to Kenya. And what we learned after interviewing them, to make this a little shorter, is that they were asked, and there was some back and forth. They didn't admit to this at first, and then we finally got to a number of interview techniques we used. And they were asked or paid to fly to Kenya to allegedly marry these individuals in a Kenyan wedding that they never met before, take pictures with them, and present this to the U.S. Embassy in Kenya. So in order to get a fiance visa, you have to prove that you basically are in love. Is the only way I could think to put it. So, when they got and so when we interviewed them, we realized that we didn't realize all of this yet, but we were onto something. And as we progressed through our case, we learned that there was a number of ways these Kenyans were doing this. They were going to the poor areas of Houston. They were recruiting these girls. And they were paying them money or doing things for them like their hair or buying them shoes or clothes or nails or things like that. And either flying them out to Kenya to do what I just said, to marry these people, take pictures, or if there were the second part of the scheme, sometimes these Kenyans got over here on their own. So they would go to, back then was Texas Southern University. They would apply for a student visa. They never showed up to class. So they get approved for a student visa, never show up to class. U.S. government doesn't have the capacity to deport everyone, particularly if there's no crime involved. And so they just live here amongst us, but eventually want to have a passport. And so what they would do with the individuals that made it here was fake a wedding. They would have a fake marriage license, and they would pay these girls to take pictures with them. And there's a number of different ways they went about it, but that was the case. So the case was called Operation Wreck Safari because the girls alleged that they were going on a safari. And it was my thought that we wrecked their safari. The U.S. Attorney's Office did not take up that case name when they prosecuted the case. And that case was pretty big. We had to actually cut it off. It could have been hundreds of people. We cut it off with about, 5 main people that we prosecuted. We used the others in the family to basically give us information and work with us in the Kenyan family. And then our Kenyan relatives, I guess, not like close family. But what we had to do with the U.S. Attorney's Office was there were two people at fault here because the person that actually applied for the fictitious passport or for a passport under false pretenses of why they wanted the passport were the Americans. And what we determined was that these were poor people that were taken advantage of. Some of these hadn't graduated high school. They weren't living a life that was very fruitful when it comes to making money. They had a couple jobs. They quit. So these Kenyans, the way we took advantage of these young girls, and which is interesting. And you may know this in law enforcement. Is I built such a great rapport with these girls, and the mom was such a respectful yes sir, no sir her kids were making them be polite. Would you like a beverage when you come in the house? And they're living in really kind of dire circumstances, one bedroom houses where they're all 12 of them living in there. So we felt we had a heart for the Americans that were being taken advantage of here. And you could make an argument they were committing crimes too and getting benefit from it. We had to make a decision of who to prosecute. And so we prosecuted the Kenyans with the support and testimony of the American females from Houston. And we're successful in prosecuting all of them. We even got one on a case or a crime that we don't often prosecute, but tampering with a witness. So we had one
Wow.
individual that served more time because after we told him not to talk to the others, he went and tried to persuade, and he tampered with a witness, and he got extra time as well.
That's
Which
good.
his extra time, because he got that, he ended up ratting him.